Hi, I'm Ned, and I make games. This video is from my live stream over on twitch.tv/NedMakesGames, where I'm live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. US Eastern Time. I'd love to see you there. Hello, hello, is this thing on? All right. Hi, everybody. How are y'all doing? I hope you all had a great day so far. Oh, hi, Nephilim. Thank you. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, here it is. Opened on my other monitor. So, a couple days ago, we worked on trying to make like a falling petals effect with some custom particles. So I thought we'd return to that today. And if I remember right, okay, so we hadn't actually gotten to the point where we can test it yet. We're still setting up the compute shader. I think the compute shader. Okay, so all it does is just change the petal positions based on a constant velocity. And then the shaders. Okay, so it's just a simple shader right now. It looks like, okay, so it just has a constant color. Okay, I think I see what I need to do. So, like here, okay, so we just dispatch an invalid size. I guess that was just so that if I tried to test it, I would see it's not ready yet. So we need to try to figure out the actual dispatch size. Okay, so I have a number of petals all set up. I guess, well, I'll wait to do that. So the dispatch size, we need the compute shader to run once per petal. And for every, I guess, as you increase the dispatch size by 1, it will run 128 times, because that's what our number of threads is set to here. So, and there's a way that you can get the dispatch size from the compute, or that you can get the thread group size from the compute buffer, so you can compute that value. Okay, I think it's compute shader, get kernel thread group size. Okay, so we need the kernel index, which I haven't gotten yet either. And the kernel index is just, on a compute shader, you can have multiple kernels, which are basically functions that you can call from C#. And we've registered one here called main. So if you want to get the index of this, all we have to do is call compute shader get or find kernel, and then pass it the name, which is main. And then we just need the X thread group size. The other ones we don't care about. So we can just use this discard character. Okay, and now, so to calculate the actual thread group size, let's set it up here. Or dispatch size, I mean. We would do, so we need to have at least, well, for every 128 petals, we need to have at least one thread group. So we can use the ceiling operator, our ceiling function. By settings dot number of petals. Oh, I meant to cast that. That's why I put the parenthesis there. Okay, and then I have to cast this to an integer. Okay, so now down here I can... Okay, well I also need the kernel index, so let's store that here. So then I give it the kernel index, telling it which function I want to call, and then the dispatch size. And actually for the Y and Z size, we'll just pass 1. This just lets you can specify a size and up to 3D. In case you're working with a texture, it's a little easier to deal with that way. Okay, so that is good. So after the compute shader runs, we'll call draw procedural, which runs our material, and it will pick up what the compute shader has computed or calculated. Okay, so this all looks good, but we've got to figure out this index buffer and also I'm gonna do that in case these are null, they won't get a null reference. And then we've got to set the various properties onto the compute shader here. Okay, so delta time is updated every frame. So we call set float delta time and then time.delta time. And we can't use, like, if you've watched my video about time and shaders, in compute shaders, Unity does not set those values, so you have to upload them yourself. Okay, so that's taken care of, and then these other two I also need to set, but we can do that just in the initialize function. Let's do a float 3 gravity. Or I think I called it, like, yeah, constant velocity, because I guess we could add wind or something in there, so it's not always just gravity. Yeah, I'll probably want to have like some kind of back and forth like wave effect to simulate wind, but can figure that out later. So set vector constant velocity, and these always have to be vector 4, so you can just pad out the last argument with a 0. And then, oops. Okay, number of falling petals. Okay, and this, it's kind of annoying. It doesn't take an unsigned integer directly, if I can spell it. So you have to cast it. Okay, well, you have to cast it to a normal integer. So I guess if this number of petals goes above the integer, like maximum size, we could get some wrong things there, but I don't know. I don't think we'll that's like several million petals, which probably not going to which you wouldn't even be able to see the game world in that case, probably. Okay. So, oh yeah, I need to set the buffers, of course. So the compute shader has a reference to the falling petals buffer. Okay, and this buffer... Oh, right. So for buffers, you have to also, it's set on a per kernel basis, so you have to give it the kernel index. And we also need to set this in the graphics shader so that it can access the same buffer. And you can just do that using the material. Okay, so now... Okay, well, if I press play, we still won't see anything, and that's because I need to initialize the index buffer. So right now, even though we specify vertices, the shader doesn't know how to connect them up into triangles. So that's what this index buffer will do. Okay, trying to decide where to create it. I guess we can just do it here. So first we need to make an array of integers. And so for every petal we have 2 triangles, which means we have 6 indices, which I calculated there. Okay, but we actually want to loop through once per petal. So do it like this. Less than settings number of petals. Okay, so we'll want, so remember the indices buffer, every 3 consecutive indices, well, I guess every index points to a vertex, and every 3 consecutive indices specifies 1 triangle. So first we need the index where our triangles start in the index buffer, which I will call I, and that is simply p times 6, which is, again, because we have 6 or 2 triangles per petal, and so that means 6 indices total. And then you also need the start index for the vertex for this petal, and that is p times 4, because every petal is a square with 4 vertices. Okay, so indices I, okay, I'm just going to say plus 0. Obviously the 0 is not needed. So the first one, the first index points to the first vertex, which is in the bottom left corner. And we can just, these have to wind counterclockwise. So we can go bottom left, bottom right, top left to form 1 triangle. And that's just the first, second, and third vertex. Now the next ones start, again, it has to go counterclockwise, so you can do vertex 1, and then 3, and then 2. Four, 5, so vertex 1, 3, 2. Okay, so that makes our index buffer, and then we just have to upload this data to the compute shader, or not compute shader, to the index buffer on the GPU, which we can do that by calling set data. Okay, so now that's taken care of, but we also need to initialize the petal data too, because the shader, or yeah, the compute shader, only adjusts the position. And now I can also see the structure is incorrect because it doesn't match here. It's missing the tangent to world, so I'm just going to fix that real quick. Okay, so did I already... Okay, I have a C# version of the structure here. So, petal, darked. And we'll just create a a version of this buffer on the CPU, which we'll then upload just like we did for the indices. Obviously, there's one petal structure per petal. Okay, so I'm going to give it a random position on the screen. Wait, actually, they're in world space, right? So I guess I'll just give it a random position inside the world bounds. And then as for the rotation, I think I'll just give it the identity rotation for now, which means it won't rotate. And then we don't even deal with the fade right now. So... okay. Let's make a random number generator. Why is it not like that? I'll make a seed here. Initialize random seed. And this is just so that, I don't know, I guess every time we play we can make sure that the random number generator matches up. Okay, I think it's complaining here. Oh, right, because we have the Unity Mathematics random and then also the Unity Engine random. So it's just complaining that it doesn't know which structure we're working with, but if we just change this to a var, then it can infer it. So new float 3. Okay, I think I can do it this way. Oh, it actually, that's cool. It already has a float 3. It returns a uniformly random float 3 value with all components in the interval 0 to 1. So that's exactly what we need. So we can just call our next float 3 times the bounds size, or wait, settings, world bound size plus the settings world bounds center. Oh, that's not going to work, is it? Because then they'll be offset. I think I can use the minimum. Yeah. Okay. So the minimum, and then it. Oh, right. This is because these are vector 3s, but I'm working with a float 3, so it doesn't know exactly how to add them, even though they're really the same. But now what? Cannot convert pedal struct to... oh. There we go. I was assigning that to the structure, which wasn't right. Okay, and then the tangent to world is just going to be float 3x3 identity, and then the fade is just 0 for now. We're not worrying about that. So set it into the array, and now we can upload this to the graphics buffer. Okay, so now it has some initial data, and theoretically when we test it out, we should see some squares on the screen falling. So I already have... okay, so I do already have a material. Okay, I haven't actually set up a scene yet, so let's do that. I guess test pedals. I can get rid of that sample scene. Just create an empty and give it our falling petal renderer script. Okay, so it's already complaining because it's saying something's null. Why would... I don't know how the settings could be null. I thought that Unity would always initialize that. But whatever. Okay, so initialize random seed. Let's just set this to 1. Number of petals. Let's start with 100. Okay, and they'll spawn within 5. Now that I think about it, I kind of want them always to spawn at the top. Although I guess that would look kind of boring, so I'll leave it like this for now. Okay, let's offset the starting, or the center Y position. The compute shader and give it the material. Okay, and things are visible. Okay, but yeah, they're not going to play in edit mode. But yeah, we can see squares. To make them easier to see, I think I will rotate them so that they at least face towards the camera. So I think that would be 90 degrees on the x-axis. Okay, and we can calculate that by oh, right. Okay. I was gonna say that there's a translate rotation scale function, but that's only for float 4x4. So I think we could just do rotate x by pi divided by 2. Actually, I think it needs to be negative. So okay, I think. Oh. No, okay, so this was right. I was just looking at the wrong way. Okay, so yeah, we see petals. Oh, actually, wait, they are... Yeah, they are opposite because Z is pointing towards the camera in this way, so... Okay, it was actually a positive pi there. Easily fixed. Okay, so they're black because they're not getting any light, I guess. Which doesn't seem correct. Because... Okay, so that's funny. Okay, so the normal is a little messed up, apparently. But it doesn't really matter. I'm more surprised that they're not falling down because we did set up the gravity. Okay, first thing I was gonna say is I maybe don't set the pedal back into the buffer, but I do. Did I misspell delta time, maybe? No. Okay, it's not like calling initialized every frame or something, right? Because that would reset the positions to that random, or it would initialize the positions every frame, so they obviously wouldn't run. Or they obviously wouldn't change position. Nope. It's not running every frame. Okay, so that means... Either I've messed up the logic here, or the shader isn't getting the up-to-date buffer data. Which just sometimes happens, but usually I've done it this way before and I haven't had an issue. That's a structured buffer. Okay, well, we know it's getting the data correctly. And we do add the position right there. But yeah, because of this data, if it wasn't able to access the data in the graphics shader, it just... things wouldn't even draw. So we know that's correct. It's just not updating the position. Okay, so what do I want to do? Oh, yeah, let's check the frame buffer. Or frame debugger. I think I called it the buffer. Okay, so the compute shader is running before we draw our procedural. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Draw procedural. Yeah, so it does show the falling petals buffer available in the vertex stage. Alright, let's try something. Sometimes you have to set something called a register, which is kind of like a global I guess global registry of buffers, so that shaders can like share data between them. Usually I mean, I haven't had to do that before with my grass compute shader, so... But yeah, we can try that and see if it works. I need to change this. So they have to be the same data type, I think, because structured are read-only buffers, and then read and write buffers have to go in like different registers. Okay, so property falling petals at kernel index 0 is not set. Okay, well, I think that's just because it was... Let's... Okay, what's going on here? Assertion failed, expression... Okay, Oh, actually, okay. I think you can't set... Yeah, that's right. I don't think you can set the registers for buffers like this. You have to set it with the set global buffer, which I don't really want to do, and I shouldn't have to. There's probably something else going on. I'll leave that right now. Did I, like, make a typo? Okay, now what did I do? Something... Okay, let's restart Unity. Yeah, as we found out before, sometimes debugging compute shaders can be kind of a pain. Because it's really hard to get a handle on the data. Okay, so now at least it's not throwing that error, but I don't see any petals. But it seems like the only thing that I changed from before was I made this a read-write structured buffer instead of just a structured buffer. Oh, actually, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can't use read-write buffers during the vertex stage. Yeah, I just remembered that now. Okay, so why is it not moving? Let's, I'm gonna set, instead of doing random, I'm gonna set every buffer to the, just 1, I guess. Every position to 1. Okay, so petal dot position dot y equals 1. And oh, yeah, this is fine. So then after this compute shader, I'm gonna grab the first petal and see if its Y position has changed after the compute shader runs. Okay, so then we need the petal buffer, get data, petals, and then I could just log the position. In fact, I think I'm only going to do the Y. Oh, I just realized something. Did I do something silly and I didn't set... Yeah, I didn't even set the constant velocity. Okay. That's embarrassing, but whatever. We should see them fall now. Yeah. Okay. Well, we learned something. I guess I did demonstrate how you can't use read-write buffers in the vertex stage, so not a complete waste of time. Okay, yeah, so now it's working. Yeah, I'll go back to having random Y positions to test it out. Okay, so already that's pretty cool. Okay, there we go. I think I need to... well, I was gonna say I can make them... I can turn culling off. I guess that's fine because you'll want to see them no matter what anyway. So yeah, culling isn't really helping us. Okay, but yeah, this isn't grass. Okay, so now, yeah, we can see them from any direction. So next, I should figure out that weird lighting thing. So I get the normal from... I don't need this at all. So I just get the normal from the vertex output, which we compute from the tangent to world. So why does it seem like it's backwards? Well, maybe it's just that the winding order or something isn't matching up. It's probably something like that. So now that I turned off culling, if I rotate this like this, it should... Okay, yeah, so now it works. Maybe we can try to... It doesn't really matter since we have culling off. If it's... Oops. I wanted to do the directional light. So that looks better. That probably means that I'm actually winding the triangles clockwise, but... Okay, they don't actually... I was gonna say we can see that here, but the, I guess procedural meshes... Oh, they do. Yeah, so they are actually wound clockwise because they only show up when we turn around on the other side. But it doesn't really matter because we have culling off, so, but I guess just keep that in mind. I think I'll write a note so I can remember there. Let's see. Heading 3. Reminders. I don't know. Vertices. Wound. Clockwise. Might want to fix that if I need to turn back on culling. To do that, we'd probably... well, we could either flip these, which would be really simple to do, so maybe I should just do that. Sorry, I'm waffling. Okay, so this would be 0, 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now if we look back in the scene, we can wireframing and they show up in the right direction. So I guess now they're consistent with the rest of Unity, even though it's probably not needed, but it was a simple fix. Alright, so what I want to do now, before I get to doing any like fancy wind, I want the pedals to... So we want to implement collision, but we're going to do it on the GPU. And how it'll work is they'll get the depth texture from the camera. And from there we can figure out where geometry lies in the world, and that way they can tell if they're colliding or not. So this might be kind of interesting because we can see from the frame buffer, or sorry, frame debugger, that the compute shader actually runs before the rest of the render pipeline, which means that the depth texture is not ready during the compute shader. So we can either use like last frame's depth buffer, which might be okay because this is just a graphical effect, or I can see if I can insert this compute shader in between different passes. I'm not actually haven't tried to do that in URP, so I'm not sure how easy or possible that is, but I guess we can try it out. First off, I'm going to turn on the depth texture. So we want this to run basically after the opaques so that the depth texture is ready. Okay, so let's add a features folder, and I guess... Okay, so this is going to be experimental because, like I said, I haven't tried to do this in URP, but I guess this is kind of the point of these streams, is to try new things. So this, I guess we'll just call it insert compute shader feature. This is I maybe should have thought about this before making this renderer, because, well, I guess I can still use it, but like we won't actually call this dispatch right here. We'll call it inside the renderer feature. But yeah, it might not even work, so we'll see. Okay, let's get rid of some of this boilerplate code. Private pass, and then we'll want a serializable settings class. So this will be the compute shader, And also the render event. I forget what it's called. Render event. Okay, there we go. Render pass event. Okay, and that just tells us, or tells the feature where to run, basically. So override, create. Oh, right. Serialize field. Private. Settings. Settings. And I guess we'll probably pass the compute shader here. And then set the event. And then here we'll just add the pass. Okay. This is just complaining that we don't have the constructor set up. Yeah, generate constructor. Execute. And then we would just call shader dispatch. Okay, so basically we need so I could move like all this code into the shader or into the renderer feature, I guess. There's no reason to call graphics draw procedural. Although right now this runs during the opaque pass, which we actually want it to run afterwards. Let me see. Let's just dispatch compute shader between render passes. I don't even. Okay, this stuff is not really what I need. Let's see. I think this is just saying you have to pass it. Looking for some advice on how to pass data from various stages, blah blah blah. How would I pass output to a compute shader? Okay, this isn't what I want, but yeah, so this stuff is for the old render pipeline. Okay, well I guess I'll just keep trying this. What am I trying to do? Oh, right. So here I can basically just move all this code into the renderer feature. Which is kind of a lot of work to do, but I think, yeah, I don't think we can really test this otherwise, so. And then all this stuff also. Although, oh. Some of the stuff doesn't seem right to put in a renderer feature. Maybe I just need to have this renderer and the renderer feature talk to each other. I think that'd be simpler to do. So I'll just get a handle on this insert compute shader feature. Okay, and I think isn't there draw procedural now? Yeah, that's what I think I want to do. Although I don't know if there's a draw procedural indirect now. Oh, I guess that wouldn't work because we have to wait for the compute shader to go. So basically, I think we would... Yeah, we just leave this here because Unity already queues it up to run at the right time. We've just got to dispatch the compute shader before it runs. Which means... Do I need to put it in a different queue so it won't run first? Okay, this is starting... I didn't think this part through before the stream, I guess. Something... All I need to do is be able to get the depth texture in the compute shader, but turning out to be a little more complicated than I originally thought. Because I'm worried that if I just call shader dispatch right here, it might run at the right time, but that would be after this graphics has been rendered, because this is rendered during the opaque stage. But I guess I could just see. Okay, so I need to set a dispatch size from the renderer. Public int dispatch size, and I'll just do it an easy way for now. Dispatch size equals dispatch size. Oh, and I also need the kernel ID, don't I? Okay, and now we can call kernel ID dispatch size 11. And I think so. I just need to pass that to the feature here. So kernel ID equals kernel ID. I guess it's called the kernel index, not ID, but whatever. And then dispatch size equals dispatch size. Okay, and then I don't dispatch the shader here. So the feature should dispatch our shader for us. Yeah, this is kind of hacky, but we'll get it to work. Object reference. Okay, so it's saying that there's no feature. So I just need to add another thing up here. So if feature equals null, don't run yet. Oh, it's funny that makes everything just go black. So I want this to run. I want it to run, I guess, whenever the depth texture is ready, which might be here. And if that's the case, then everything might just work. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Okay, so I guess I should just say if shader is null or is not null, then dispatch. Which... Okay, now we can see things again. Thread group size must be above 0. Okay, so let's just make sure that also the dispatch size is greater than 0. Okay, so let's see if this is going to work. Okay, so I don't see anything. Couldn't message when it happened because you got preoccupied with something, but your mic did go off again. Oh, it did? Okay, so it's good now. I wonder what that is. I think it's an OBS because last time it went off, I saw it was muted in OBS, so then I was able to unmute it. Maybe there's a keybind or something. But I thought I set all those off, but I don't know. I've had to like reinstall Windows relatively recently, so it could have messed up keybinds or something. Yeah, it might be a hotkey, but yeah, I'll look into that after the stream. You write a note. Anyway, I'm sorry about that, everybody. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, nothing is rendering, so obviously something is wrong. If I go into the frame debugger, we can see if compute... Okay, so the compute shader just doesn't even run. Which I was kind of afraid of, because that means that you just can't insert compute shaders arbitrarily into the render pipeline. Which, I mean, I guess kind of makes sense. So probably the best thing to do is just use last frame's depth buffer, which I think will be okay because it's like, we're not really, because it's just like a graphical effect. And as long as the frame rate is high, there won't really be any noticeable problems. This time it might have been an audio thing on my end, but yeah, it's still weird that it happened last time. Yeah, well, thank you, Thoughts Bubble, for telling me. I'll definitely investigate it over the weekend. Alright, so, okay, well now we know we can't insert a compute shader at an arbitrary point, which I guess kind of makes sense because I think the GPU is busy with rendering. Although I guess I should make sure that this was even called before I give up on this particular strategy. Let's just say dispatch. There's probably some other way to do it. I might go research it later. Oh, well, okay, so it's not even running because dispatch isn't getting called, so I'm glad I tested that. Probably because the kernel ID doesn't get set. Oh, I think I know what's going on there. So there's kind of a weird update order between when start happens in like C# and then when create is called for scriptable render pipelines. I ran into the same problem with my grass trample effect tutorial. And basically what happens is I think start runs before create. So it's yeah, so start is running, or on enable in this case, and then it calls initialize and we set the kernel index. But then the render feature calls create, or the universal render pipeline creates the render feature afterwards, which resets our variables that we just set. I hope I'm explaining that right. But so basically what we have to do is set this. Well, we can be smarter about it, but for now I'm just going to set this every frame. So feature dot dispatch size equals dispatch size, and feature dot kernel ID equals kernel ID. Okay, well, it's still not. This still shows up as 0. Did I? Oh, okay, so the render is not even running at all because I didn't set the feature. Okay, there it works. But now, is it running in the right order is the question. Okay, so that's interesting. The compute shader still runs before, but I think that kind of makes sense because like when Unity is running through the render pipeline, it doesn't actually like render immediately. It's like in queuing commands. So can I dispatch a compute shader from a command buffer? That would be the next question. Okay, dispatch compute shader from command buffer. Oh, there is one. Command buffer dispatch compute. Okay. Oh, this isn't. It's not Unity's website. Okay, so command buffer dispatch compute. So, oh, and you can even do it with an indirect buffer. Not that we really need it. Okay, so with command buffers, can you do a draw procedural? Because that would affect everything, or fix everything. Oh, you can. Okay. Because now I can make sure that our procedural call also is rendered after the compute shader runs. I'm pretty sure anyway. Okay, so now I need to remember how to initialize a command buffer and the render feature. Let me just look up my old code. So my I think we used the command buffer in one of my outline shaders. Oh wait, no, I just used the render objects buffer there. So I guess it would be in my render feature. Which I'm trying to find here. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so yeah, you just oh yeah, so there's a command buffer pool so that you don't have to create a new command buffer every time this is called. So I'm just gonna copy this. Okay, and for now we'll just leave this with the really simple code and we can fix it. Okay, so the profiling name, I'll just call this, well, I guess we should, well, I'll clean this up later on. It's gonna be kind of messy for now. This will just be pedal compute. And okay, so yeah, this is all for like dealing with textures, which we don't need to worry about just yet. And so that, so command dot dispatch compute. So we have the shader and the kernel index. We don't need an indirect buffer, so we can just pass the dispatch size 1 1. Okay, so let's see if this works. And then we can bring over graphics draw procedural. But yeah, what's yeah, if that's the case, then we should probably just put everything that we did on the other thing just in this render feature. Oh, so turn that off. Okay, so far it seems like the compute shader is running at least, so let's turn on the frame debug. Okay, perfect. So inside here, pedal compute is running before pre-passes. So if I change the event just to test, will it run any arbitrary time that I'd want? Let's say after transparence, which it does, pedal compute is right here. Okay, so we have the copy depth, and that's when it does, yeah, so the only issue now is that it draws all the opaque objects and then it copies the depth texture. So we kind of want, well, it was an issue before because I wasn't sure how to schedule something else, but I think I can just move this. Or wait, we'd want to go back to after rendering opaques. Okay, except that puts copy depth afterwards, so we'll want to actually do before skybox. And so then we'll run the compute shader and then the graphics procedural call. Okay, cool. So in that case, since we're going to be working basically doing everything in this pass, it'd probably be easier, like I was thinking about before, that I just move all of this into the render feature. Excuse me. Which I think would be fine. There's nothing... It just feels a little weird to do all this like heavy work during the render feature, but I guess it's not really an issue. Is there... Okay, so it has a create. I don't know if it has like a dispose though, which would be a bit of a shame. Okay, it does have dispose, so that's what we need. Alright, so we already have the shader settings. So yeah, I'm just gonna basically move everything that was in here into the compute shader or render feature. Yeah, all this stuff. And I guess well, yeah, so now I'm not doing an insert compute shader. This is just the falling petals feature, so let's rename it. And then I need to rename it here. Oh, it already renamed the string. Or rename the file name, which is gonna cause an issue, I think. So I'll just remove that. Okay, so we already have the compute shader. Don't really need to do that serialized field stuff. Okay, and I'll change these to petal settings. Do we want to... Okay, I don't need this anymore. I'm just seeing if I want to rearrange this a little bit. Okay, and so here, yeah, so the only thing that serializes is everything in the settings class. Don't need that public anymore. Okay, so we create the pass and then the render event. Excuse me again. And I can just basically copy everything out of here. I don't really need this initialized variable anymore, so that's kind of nice. This function is starting to get a bit big. Okay, this stuff. We'll need that too. Let's rearrange this a little bit. Okay. Pedal settings and settings dot compute shader settings dot material. Okay, we don't need to worry about the feature anymore. And I guess I should put a debug log here. So debug log falling pedals feature not initialized or settings not initialized or invalid. So that way we won't have a silent fail like we did before. Settings dot. We're going to use that a lot, so let's pull out some of these. Compute shader equals settings dot compute shader for material equals settings dot material, and petals equals settings dot petal settings, which I think that will conflict with this, so I'll just call this petal data. And then I can just rename all this stuff. Okay, so I think all this is fine. So I can give... How do I want to... Yeah, maybe I should actually move all this stuff up into the pass object, because the pass is going to just... It needs all this data anyway. Okay, so that was a bit of a... Okay, so this, and then we'll pass it the settings object. And then it will store what it needs here, which would just be... Actually... Oh wait, except this one doesn't have like a dispose Although, okay, well, we can just dispose the pass here, I think. I don't know, it feels weird. I don't think it's... It just feels weird to me to do all this in the pass. I don't know if it really actually matters, but to me the pass should just handle like the command buffer, and the feature is the one that should set up all that kind of like metadata. So I think I'll just have another function. So let's see here. So it's going to need the compute shader, the kernel ID, the dispatch size, and then it's going to need the index buffer. And I think that's all for the graphics thing. Let's see here. So I can either pass it in the constructor, or I can pass it here, but it's not going to like change in between frames, I don't think. So let's see here. So okay, I'll just kind of treat this as a data class. So we'll have public compute shader. Oh yeah, compute shader, and then public material, mesh material, and then int compute kernel index, public int compute dispatch size. Okay, let's just stop that. Let's figure out everything we need, and then I can pass it. Okay, and I don't have to worry about this because we won't even enqueue the pass if it's not set up correctly. So if pass does not equal null, then we'll do something like this. That's just because like the render feature can exist, but without like having all this stuff set up. We'll clean that up in a second. Okay, so we dispatched that, and then we've got to set the delta time. Set. Okay, I thought of everything. Set compute float parameter. So we have the compute shader, and then delta time. Okay, and then so draw procedural. Okay, so let's see. There's more options here than there was in the other. So okay, we want the index buffer. Don't really need to pass it a matrix. So it'll just be identity matrix, I guess. Okay, so index buffer matrix 4x4 identity, the shader pass. I kind of want it to run everything, but I guess we only have one pass on our shader right now, so that's fine. Okay, so material 0, and then the topology. Sorry, the topology is triangles, and then index count is yeah, we don't have that here, but so public int mesh index count, and that's just the number of petals times 6. Okay, is that? Let me just make sure that there's no other arguments we might want to send. So I have a lot of different overloads. So index buffer, matrix material, shader pass topology. Okay, yeah, we only have one instance count, and we don't have any properties, so that's fine. Okay. So I think this will do exactly what we want. Now I just need to set all these variables. We don't really need to store this across frames anymore because we'll just pass it to the pass object. Okay, so render pass event equals settings dot render event. Compute shader equals compute shader. Compute kernel ID or kernel index. And then we need a dispatch size. And then the mesh material. Mesh index count is petals. Number of petals times 6. Okay. I think I'm forgetting one other thing. Then we need the index buffer, of course. Okay, what's it complaining about? Oh, I think this is an unsigned integer. Okay, so now on dispose, we just need to dispose of the 2 buffers if they're not null. So we can do something like this. Okay. And I think with that, we've passed everything from the C# pedal renderer. Okay, so this is going to complain about these things, so I'll delete it. And then to prevent this from running, all we have to do is disable it here. Okay, so I don't see anything yet, but that's because I removed it from the renderer. So falling petals feature. So yeah, it's saying it's not initialized, which is what we want to happen. Let's do 100 petals. Something like this again. Be sure to set a velocity. And then we want it to render before the skybox. Okay, cool. It works perfect. Okay, garbage collector. Disposing graphics buffer. Please use graphics buffer release. Okay, I don't know why. I'll have to look into that. Doesn't seem to be happening when the game is running though, so. Okay, and I'm just curious, so yeah, the pedal. It does the compute shader and draw procedural, which unfortunately there's no data for each at this point, but. Okay, so actually, that was less painful than I thought it would be. Alright, so basically we don't need the C# at all anymore, so I'm gonna mark it as obsolete. But I'll leave it around. Let's clean this up. And then I'll call this falling. I'll just clean up the name, the debug name there a little bit. Okay, so I think in order to get debug or better debugging, I have to like start a debug scope, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. But I am a little curious about why it just must not call dispose correctly, which is kind of annoying. But maybe it just will happen when scripts load and reload. Now it's happening during the game as well. Okay, well, I'm going to need to look into that because I don't think there's any... I mean, it's kind of disappointing that dispose isn't called correctly. Because I think I can't like check here because by the time we get to create, they probably like it's probably not going to call create on a an instance that already exists. So it would call create and then like the instance that has these buffers would have already been lost. But I guess we can try. I just would rather not those warnings come up because they're going to be kind of annoying. Really? It just calls create multiple times on the same object? Well, I guess that's okay. So maybe I do need that initialized variable. Private bool initialized. So if initialized, then we just want to call dispose. Let's pass false, I don't know. And then initialized equals false. Oh wait, I probably shouldn't do that because it's going to call the super object. So private void release buffers. Initialize is false, and then we set initialize to true here. Okay, so this should get rid of all of those problems. Okay, so now we have some wonderful little pink squares. So now we are finally ready to use the depth texture, which if we look in the frame debugger, Unity copies into its own texture called the camera. Well, I don't think it's called the camera depth attachment, but yeah, I'm not sure if, well, if it's set globally, the compute shader should be able to use it as well. But we will see, I guess. Okay, so we want to include the core universal render pipeline file because that has the macros that will allow a compute shader to call or to read a texture. Okay, so maybe it's not called. No, it was just recompiling. Okay, well this happened a second ago, didn't it? Property falling petals at kernel index is not. Okay, let's just restart it again. It could also be that I am including the wrong function or the wrong include file. Oh, okay, it's actually called common. Or this is the core shader. Library, actually I want the universal. Okay, yeah, so it is core. Yeah, this has the texture 2D stuff. So I don't know why it's giving me that error, but okay, now it's... Why is it pink now? Or why is it black? Okay. It's still rendering at the right time, but I don't know why is it being affected by light so strangely. Okay, it's not being affected by light at all. Okay, why would including something in the compute shader turn everything black? Unity is in a strange mood tonight, it seems like. Let's just try... I'm just going to return white here and see what happens. It's giving me a ton of that error. But... Unity GUI utility process event, but it's not like even... Okay, so it's something with a scriptable render pipeline. Render single camera. Using profile scope, but it's outside. Since the scriptable render contacts all the commands and queued. Yeah. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't use this without a profiling scope, it seems like. Because it's saying that there's a bug where command buffers mess with the profiling scope. I didn't really want to mess with these right now, but I guess I... Did I even use it? Yeah, I don't use it here. Oh, that's profiling scope. Profiling sampler. So I could just make a new sampler, I guess. Okay, well, let's try to set this up and see if that gets rid of the problem, because I don't know, like, these errors are not very useful at all, and it seems like it's happening because the command buffer or something is... I don't really know, but I'm just going by this error that something is messed up with them. So I don't think it actually has anything to do with me adding this include. So using var scope equals, or you're gonna do new profiling scope. Okay, so I need to pass the command buffer. And new profiling sampler. And it said it has to be the same name. Can I just do something like... Okay, I can do that. And then, okay, so... Okay, well this is doing something different. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure if I needed to release the command buffer before or after. Here it's releasing it after. Kind of funny, they release it and then they pass it to a profiling scope, so... Okay, so hopefully this gets rid of that error. Seems like it did. That was a weird one. Okay, now... Why did that turn them all black? So let's see if the lighting works again now. No, so for some reason lighting still doesn't work. No, is that because I added... Like if I remove this include... Oh no, it's starting again. This isn't really what I want to do on stream, Unity. Can't you play nice? What is... Cryptic error. Oh, is it a bug? So fixed? Okay, well it's not really fixed. When using mixed reality. Okay, well that's not it. Solution failed on expression. Audio groups. Okay, that's what I would think, but I don't know why this is throwing the error. Although it's weird because it doesn't really show up here. It's just, but when you double click it sends me there, so it might not have anything to do with this. So I don't really know what I'm doing with these profiling scopes, so I'm just going to comment it out. Maybe we'll have to move to another project. I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know if this bug or what this bug is doing, because it's mysteriously making lighting not work, but it seems like everything else renders. Although now velocity is not working either, so let's see. When I play, what does the frame debugger say? Okay, so the falling petals are still running. Let's add a little something to the scene. Maybe this will help us figure it out, because we'll have another opaque object. So when I look in the frame debugger, so that square should, okay, yeah, we're getting shadows and stuff now. Yeah, no pick object. It's copying the depth texture, and you can, oh, I don't know if you guys can see it, but in this little tiny texture, you can see a little bit of red where the rectangle is, and then drawing our stuff on top. So, I mean, everything looks like it's supposed to be, but I just don't know what this error means. It did kind of go away when I put this profiling scope, but then didn't fix the lighting, and then it kind of came back. So now the profiling scope isn't helping. Okay, is it my... Let's see, is it the falling petals? If I turn this off, does it still happen? Okay, no. I guess that kind of explains or helps a little bit. So I know it is my petals. Oh, hey Soundy. Thanks for stopping by. Oh yeah. I don't have yeah, this I guess is the first time I've really done webcam is on stream, but how are you doing tonight? I'm trying to fix this weird bug right now, so sorry if not the most exciting content at the moment. But yeah, I'm kind of I haven't really worked a whole lot with these command buffers in URP. You should cam more often in my videos. Yeah, I'm thinking about adding it. At least during like the intro and outro, I think it would make it a little more like conversational. So, and you like my background? Well, thank you. Yeah, maybe I'll try the webcam in next week's video. Maybe we'll see. Okay. All right. So anyway, this bug, like this error, is completely unhelpful, but it has something to do with compute buffers, or these command buffers. Okay, so if I remove this draw procedural, does it still happen? So now only the compute buffer will run, and we won't get any meshes, or we won't get anything on screen. Okay, yeah, so it still happens. So it's not the procedural call. What about if, oops. So now we'll just do draw procedural. So we should get a mesh on screen, but it won't move with gravity. Okay, so it has something to do with the compute shader. Because when I draw procedural, it still works. So what about if I try just to set this parameter? Okay, so that means something is wrong with this dispatch. So maybe the compute shader does just have a problem, but it was working just a second ago, and I don't see any errors here. Okay, so yeah, it's just getting the thread ID, returning if the ID is greater than this register, and now it's grabbing something out of a buffer, multiplying matrix addition, and then storing. And that's just when we were adding the delta time to the position. And then it's adding it back into the structured buffer. So that, I mean, it's all fine. Okay, now what's all this about? Oh, I think we just need to restart because it's lost its connection to Unity. completed your final university assignment as of Sunday previous. My content was instrumental in achieving that. Oh, well, I'm so glad to hear that, Soundy. Crown Jewel was Conway's game of life implemented via compute shader on the back of my instruction. Oh, well, thank you. Sincerely, thank you for your content. Well, thank you so much for watching. It's really cool to hear that I can help you do that kind of stuff. Yeah, I love the game of life. I was actually, someday I'd like to do a video on it, but I'm really glad that I could help you with that. Alright, so, I mean, I don't know what could be wrong here unless it's a problem on Unity's end. But, like, I don't even have this anymore. Let's just make this, like, super bare bones and see if we still get an error. So the shader won't actually do anything anymore. Okay, so no errors when I did that. Does it not like this buffer anymore? But why? It's been working fine. Okay. I want to trigger like an actual error. So now it should say this pedal hasn't been defined. Yeah, which is right. And now it does show up here. So compute shader property following pedals at kernel index 0 is not set. Is it? Did I not set the buffer? I thought I did. Yeah, I set it right here. Is it like not getting initialized or something before this is called? But that doesn't make any sense. Because we only pass the compute shader to the pass object after we set everything up here. Maybe there's some weirdness going on with like it's being created before Unity starts up the frame, and so then it's like releasing it. Okay. I think it's probably something like that is happening where, because yeah, the Unity is like, since we know that it calls dispose kind of strangely, probably what's happening is we set the value in the compute shader, but then like when the editor starts up, it loses that hook, and then it's so then it's not initialized anymore, but the render feature doesn't know that, and so it's still trying to run it, and then it's throwing those errors. I don't know how to fix that besides trying to initialize at every frame, which it seems kind of wasteful. Yeah, I guess. Okay, so now this error is more helpful. So it's saying that the property following pedals at kernel index 0 is not set. Yeah, so this error is extremely unhelpful, but I think it's related. Okay, well, let's just call create. No, I can do that. Okay, let's just call create every frame, which seems really weird and wasteful, but I'm going to see if that fixes the error, and if it does, And I guess we'll see if we can, how we can work with that. Okay, no, the error still happens, so... So, compute. I guess only if the pass isn't null, then... Compute... Shader... Set... Oh, wait. Yeah, it's settings.compute shader. Set... Buffer... falling petals... And then pedal buffer. I guess I can use... I was gonna say... don't know. I'm pretty sure that the kernel index is 0, but... Just to make sure we do set it there. Okay, no, it's still happening. Yeah, so there's some problem because the compute shader is not running. We can tell because it's not moving. I don't know why the lighting has disappeared, but... Although... Yeah, there is a constant velocity set. Let's just try something here. Like, I don't think I can get something from the compute shader, right? I can't, like, get a buffer, no. Compute kernel index. Yeah, I guess I'll just make sure that these are being set, although... Seems like we're not getting an error about that. Yeah, so 0, 2. Although, that is a little weird because there's 100 pedals and the dispatch size is 128, right? So why is it doing 2 dispatches? Because the number of pedals is 100. Thread group size is 128. So it should be 1. Okay, well, I just found maybe another bug. I don't think this has anything to do with the weird thing I'm trying to deal with, but... Yeah. Am I going crazy here? Okay, so number of pedals. Oh, I did do it backwards. So, yeah, okay. Seems like simple math is the first thing to go when, when I get tired. Yeah, so yeah, I was dividing the number of pedals by, or the thread group size by the number of pedals, but I actually needed to know like how many thread group sizes we needed per pedals. So I had to invert it. But anyway, I'm glad I caught that. Okay, so anyway, that's not the bug. It's I'm running out of threads at the moment. So okay, so we've tried setting this every frame. That doesn't seem to help. Sad times. Twitch doesn't have a game dev category. Science and tech is very misleading. I know. What's even more maddening about it is that there's like this huge petition on their I guess that their petition website to add like a game development category, and it's the like most upvoted petition on there by like hundreds of votes, but they still won't do it. Then again, it took them like 2 years to add more stream tags, so I don't know why they're so slow. Yeah, what if you dev from a hot tub? Yeah, they added hot tub and beaches before game development. Not that anything's really wrong with that category, but it's just kind of funny that they won't add game development. Okay. Just trying to look and see if there's any weird errors I can find. This was all working before in the C# renderer, but it's not working here. I'm almost like I was gonna say I almost want to just like rewrite this compute shader, but it's so small I don't know what could possibly be the issue. Do I watch a YouTuber by the name Max Durat? No, I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to check it out. Is he also a game developer? Or he or she, I guess. This is quite the weird bug. I don't know, I might pivot to something else because I feel like I am running in circles here. It's very interesting. He does video essays on games and advocates for mental health issues and has a really lovely community. Okay, well, check it out. I do love my video essays. You mentioned that because you have mental health tag in a stream. Oh yes, I mean, yeah, everybody has. Well, I guess not everybody, but it's always good to acknowledge mental health issues, and I feel like our culture in general doesn't talk about it enough. Oop, I don't know if you can hear my doggy. Okay, let's see. So let's just spend a couple more minutes on this, and if I don't get another lead, we'll just move to something else, because yeah, this isn't, I'm sure this isn't the most exciting to watch. Settings. So is there something else I need to check if it's null? Nice far too good to be true. Yeah, I wonder what he was barking about. I'll have to go check later. Your door is staring into code. Okay, well, that's good to know. Okay, well, okay. I was going to check this, but I mean, we know that draw procedural works correctly because when we took out the compute shader dispatch, there wasn't any problems. So for some reason, Unity is not able to dispatch the shader, but it works fine when I take out stuff to do with the buffer. I wonder if like I left the buffer in here, but then remove anything like accessing it. If that, what happens then? So no errors. You live for esoteric bugs. Well, I think we've had our fair share tonight, that's for sure. Yeah, so I left this in, but let's see, is it still part of the compute shader? Okay, it has the constant buffer. I think it did take out the other buffer, the pedals buffer. Because yeah, the shader compiler is really smart and is able to remove code that's not needed. So what if I just like accessed it? I think this will still get optimized away because I don't actually do anything with it, but yeah, it doesn't keep it. Oops, I didn't mean to close the whole window. Okay, but yeah, anyway, so yeah, we can see it just has the constant buffer, which is really just holds like these values here. But it got rid of the pedal buffer because we don't really use it for anything that matters. We're just reading and not setting any data, so the compute shader knows it can just like delete all that code. But if I bring this in, it should go back into the code, but then we'll start getting those errors again. Let's see. Yeah, so now it has this UAV unstructured buffer, which is our pedals buffer. Then it has this, which is grabbing the data out of the buffer. We're adding the position and then saving it back into the buffer. Although, no error. Okay. I don't know why the error is gone. Did I not like set something up? Oh, I didn't. Okay, we're still not dispatching it. Which I guess was kind of silly of me because... What? Is it going to work now? Okay. Well, like, I'm not going to complain, but I don't know. I have no idea what was causing that bug. I guess it was just something with Unity, maybe the shader compiler, and for some reason it fixed itself when I inspected the code. Okay, so now this is complaining again because it's lost like references to Unity. It's being strange tonight. You have set Unity sometime last week without knowing, and this is my punishment. Yeah, I guess I'm beginning to think so. Although, okay, so there's still no lighting, which is really weird. And it just like happened randomly because it was pink before. Let's see. Maybe the material color got reset? What? Now it's pink when I click on it? Okay, there's something really weird happening. Because that shouldn't have mattered. You don't control Unity. Unity controls me. Yeah, I know. And okay, yeah, this is really weird. I don't know. Have I restarted Unity recently? I did, like, when these bugs first started popping up. But I wonder if it's, like... I don't know. Maybe it's not playing nice with OBS or something? Let me check to make sure, like, my... RAM or something's not full. I don't know. It's really strange. I've never had this issue before. And it's wonderful that it's popped up on stream, let me tell you. Okay, no, my memory is still fine. My computer's on fire. Yeah, I'm kind of, yeah, I was a little worried that it was a hardware thing because I've had tech issues recently. But okay, well, it seems to be working fine. So I guess as long as it is, we'll keep working. Now, what started all this? Okay, so now it's like unlinking from Unity again. But okay, it fixed itself. So what started all this was all I tried to do was add this include package to the core universal shader library. And I'm almost scared to add it back in. But we've got to if we want to move forward. So, okay. So it's back. Let me, oh, like I've done this before with other compute shaders and I don't get this weird stuff. So let me make sure that I'm getting the right file. Trying to remember what project was it. My grass one? It was, oh yeah, it was the first blade grass where I, yeah, the real-time one where I did wind in the compute shader. Assets. Shader. No, that's not it. Okay, so this is just my grass compute shader. Okay, so we can include it. Oh, gosh. Okay, so now it's at least pink, but I'm getting this weird bug again. Have you heard about the ongoing Dreamworld saga or the Earth 2 saga? Doesn't sound... I'm trying to think. It doesn't sound or ring a bell at the moment. But yeah, my brain is a bit fried. They're big YouTube topics at the moment. If you get the time, look them up. It's fascinating. Okay. Yeah, I will. Okay, so now we're not getting velocity again. Can you not... Is there something in here that would mess up? Well, I mean, obviously something is going wrong, but... So it grabs all these. I really just want... I need the one that defines the texture. Texture macros. Which is probably... common, maybe? In the core render pipeline. Maybe we can get the core render pipeline and it won't complain. Well, like I said, I've done this before, so I don't really know why it's doing these strange bugs right now. But anyway. Okay, so common. Ability to fight through these issues against Unity and still retain some creative drive as beyond human. Well, that's nice of you to say. Yeah, sometimes, I don't know, you run into these weird bugs and it's like, you can't give up because you need to try to solve them. So you just keep on looking at them from different angles until you find something that works. Okay, so this is doing a bunch of stuff. I don't see the texture 2D macro, but it's probably because it's like tucked away in one of these other files that they include. Like one of these. So let's just try to do the core pipeline and the common file because I think that's all I need. Okay. And maybe let's just ignore it for a second and just try to define a texture and see if it works. So texture 2D, what was I even need it for? I needed it, oh, the depth texture. Oh, yeah, so that's another thing. It's going to be difficult because I have to make sure I get the depth texture. I don't even remember what it's called. Declare depth texture. So, yeah, it's this camera depth texture. I mean, I could just include this file, but I'm kind of scared to. Okay, so I think this was all defined in that URP thing. I think it's going to say it doesn't find that macro, yeah. Okay, so at least now it found the macro. Okay, but the texture is not going to show up because we don't do anything with it. So let's just do, I mean, it's going to be 0 because I don't think these are going to get initialized correctly, but let's just sample it. So sample texture 2D LOD, camera depth texture. And the UV, I'll just do 0 for now. And the first LOD is fine. And then I'll just multiply that. Well, it's going to give us 0, but that's okay. I guess I'll add it then. Implicit truncation of vector type. Oh, right. Get the red coordinate. Okay. So we don't see anything else. Oh, yeah, that might fix itself when we restart. Okay. I mean, that's kind of cool because since it's moving like that, it means it maybe got the depth texture. Yeah, but it probably won't be very consistent because the depth texture will change. Let's see. If I move the camera around, will it suddenly make it start going crazy like, or moving around fast like that? No. Okay, well, that might have just been a fluke. Because we're still getting this weird bug, and now it's not moving down anymore. But when we read it, we can see the texture 2D is included in the resources, and we sample it here with this, what's it called? Instruction. So at least it's in the compute buffer, or compute shader. This bug is just really strange. I'm gonna restart Unity. I mean, we tried this before and it didn't really do anything, but maybe. I just don't know why including this file would do anything because it doesn't even change the shader. Okay, well, restarting it did do something. Okay, well, I guess if it works this time. Okay. let's I'll just get rid of this part again so we can see if we can have just normal velocity. Okay, so there's something weird going on with the compute shader compiler, I think, because whenever I change the compute shader, these bugs start to happen again. Forgive you for not having to look into this, but do you have any published games? What experience for work firsthand? I have a bunch up on my itch.io page. I used to do game jams all the time. But I've mostly done like tools and things like that, so I don't have like anything on Steam or any like AAA games, unfortunately. Well, I guess better for worse. Let me see. Well, there's a link on my website. I think it's, you can get to it this way. Okay. Yeah, they're mostly well, I'm proud of them, but they're mostly like 2D games. There's a couple 3D ones. Okay, well, yeah, let me know which ones are your favorite. I kind of sorted them by the order that I like the best, but who knows, you might find some. Okay, so anyway, yeah. If I restart it again, does the error go away? Because all I did this one was take away this texture sample, and then the error started happening again. So, and I've never had this bug before, so I don't really know what's going on. I want to try it like in another project and see if I can reproduce it, or if it's something with this project specifically. But now, yeah, see, now when I restart it, it's not happening anymore. But it also didn't happen in this project until we started working with renderer features, so maybe I should just make it so the renderer feature just doesn't even start if we're not in play mode. I don't know. It's just really strange. You should at Unity with this when you solve it. Yeah, I will, yeah, for sure, if this is a bug with their code, I'll post a bug report about it. Okay. And see, things like this keep happening where the C# keeps on losing connection to Unity, so I don't know, it might just be my computer, maybe Windows update or something has messed it up. But hopefully we won't have to deal with this next stream. I do apologize, because I haven't gotten as much work done as I hoped today because of this bug, but at least we kind of have pink squares. Okay, so let's try, like, not even, so if, we'll just return if we're in the Unity editor and we're not in play mode. Editor, and if, so if application is playing is false, then we'll return. So it just won't even start up. And then I guess we'll do the same thing. Oh. Don't talk about Windows. Oh, the weather on the taskbar. Yeah, I know, I saw that this morning. I was like, thankfully I was able to disable that pretty quickly, but it's like, I need all the taskbar real estate I can get. Okay, so I think, yeah, in add renderer passes, if we're not playing, well no, this might maybe just make another bug, but I was gonna say if we're not playing and it's initialized, we'll just dispose, but, and again, why is it, I can't get a reference to stuff, but okay, so at least it does work correctly at the moment, but I'm scared that whenever I edit the compute shader, it's gonna mess up again. But I guess I can just restart Unity if that's the case. Anyway, so what... Okay, so we want to work with a depth texture, and it seems like it's already working, which is nice. So now we need to compute the screen position of these petals so we can see if it's colliding with the depth texture, and then we can reconstruct... Well, we can find the screen position of the petal, then we can sample the depth texture, and then with that and the camera position, we can reconstruct its position in world space. Some of that math I don't know off the top of my head, so we'll have to probably look up an algorithm for that, but it's possible. Okay, so Unity, I have a way to get screen space, but I don't know what function or what file it's in. Oh, I missed the first one. Screen space, compute clip space. We want compute. They have a screen space one, don't they? Maybe it's not in here. Type maps. Stencil stuff. Okay, so what is this? Get valid and pixel shaders. Okay, I don't know what this is doing, but I don't think that's what we need. So get normalized device coordinates. So view space. Okay, well we can get screen space from view space. But we have to pass it the normalized device coordinates, device depth. Isn't there? I know there's an easier way to do this. So the clip space. Maybe it must be part of Universal Shader. Or, yeah, the Universal Shader library and not the core shader library. No, to find it. I think it's called compute screen space. So this is my trick to try to find things in the shader library, because it's not super easy. So we just go through the entire solution and see if it can find this function. You're stunned by how my on-camera persona so wonderfully aligns with me in real time. Skills are credit to medium. Sebastian Log's content are some of the absolute best. Well, that's a big compliment to be compared to Sebastian Log. He's one of my, yeah, I've loved watching his stuff for a long time, so thank you. That doesn't work. Oh, it's probably just screen position, maybe. Okay, here it is. Compute screen position. But yeah, basically, yeah, in my videos, I mean, I read off of a script, but I do write them, so I just say a lot more on live streams, so okay, so at least we know the function now. I want to find the definition so I can know what file to include. Okay, so here it's in functions. Oh, it's only in the shader graph? Well, that's not right, I don't think, but I guess we can steal this code. I'll just copy it for now. I know there's one in... I was pretty sure there was one somewhere else. Really? But you can do it in Universal Render Pipeline somehow. Maybe it's base transforms. Object to world, world to object, world to view. Is this where I just was? No. World to object direction. Well, transform object. Yeah, it doesn't have screen space stuff. Okay, well, I mean, we could keep on trying to find it, but I guess we did find a function. this was from the shader graph. Shader graph. Try to find the real or the function in library. Okay, so this just confuse. Actually, I don't know what position is now that I think about it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if this is world position or what. It's probably clip space position. Is clip space position here? Yeah, transform world to clip space. But I think it's gonna give an error because it doesn't know. This probably is not defined in a compute shader because it doesn't really know what the matrix is. Okay, so we might have to do this ourselves. Okay, well I guess we have to get the... Let's see. So we're gonna need to get the camera's position anyway. So float 3, camera... Or do we? Yeah, we might not. I think we might. I don't know. We probably will need it when we need to transform depth to world space. But to get the screen space position of the pedal, we can just use the camera's projection matrix. Or, I'll just call it... Okay, I'm afraid I'm going to get something wrong here. It's too late to do math in my head, so... Let's see, maybe somebody can help me here. It's universal, render, pipeline, world to screen space. Okay, well, we will need that later. Maybe this will just help me. So, sample scene, blah, blah, blah. Package, pour, declared depth texture. So, sample scene depth. Okay, so compute world space position to work. The depth value must be normalized device coordinate. Okay, well, yeah, that... Oh yeah, there's all this stuff that we have to worry about, like is the depth value, reverse Z. Okay, so compute world space position. Where does that come from? Okay, let's see. Include this. Depth texture file, sample scene depth function. In the fragment shader, add variance in this example. Fragment shader uses position. Clip space property from varying struct to get location of pixels. In the fragment shader, calculate UV coordinates for sampling a depth buffer. Divide the pixel locations by the render target resolution. The property scaled screen parameters takes into account any scaling of the render target, such as dynamic resolution. But the thing is, this probably isn't in the compute buffer by default. So we'll have to get this. But I guess I should test it first. Then in the fragment shader, use sample scene depth functions to sample the depth buffer. Yeah, so that's, we saw that here in the declared depth texture, which maybe I'll use, although we don't really have to worry about stereo transform because, well, I don't know, maybe the compute shader will have to. Okay, now we're getting the bug again because I edited a shader. Anyway, I'm just gonna not worry about that bug and see if we can theoretically get this working and then try to fix it. Visualize world space position of pixels, create a checkerboard effect. That might be useful to do to make sure we have it correct. Okay, so yeah, I know about this. So I guess, okay, so yeah, this is taking us. So there's a transform world to H clip, and from there we can transform that to the correct value to sample the scene depth. Alright, so actually, yeah, this is just what we need, actually. Although, some of these things, I don't know if I can use from the compute buffer. So, transform object to H-clip. That was in space transforms. So, we need this one. So, I've got to figure out where this get world to H-clip matrix comes from. Okay, so it's Unity matrix. So it's the projection matrix. Okay, so we can get that easily from the shader graph. Or not shader graph, from C#. Okay, so let's pass it. So projection matrix. And maybe while I'm writing it, we can also pass that. So that means we're going to need to get a handle on the camera. Okay, and the projection matrix might change, so we should probably set that every frame, which is fine because we can also get the camera from this rendering data. So settings dot compute shader set matrix projection matrix rendering data camera dot projection matrix. Okay, and the projection matrix is just a matrix that transforms from world to camera space, or world to clip space, I guess, which is clip space is kind of like screen space, except the corners start at -1 and range to 1. And it also has all those strange things, like depending on the hardware, the Z could be flipped. So screen space we actually want to be 0, 0 on the bottom left, and then range to 1, 1, and also, yeah, just to be normalized so that it's always bottom to top. But anyway, that's the difference between screen and clip space if you're curious. The abridged version. Okay, so world to H clip, all we do is multiply that matrix with the position, which I don't need a function to help with. Yeah, I don't think we'll need this function, but I'll leave it. Okay, so float 3 position H clip space equals multiply the projection matrix times the, oh, I guess I should go after we grab the pedal, but pedal dot world, or it's just position world space. Okay, so what's next? Okay, so they did that in the vertex stage, but it's fine. So to get the UV, we need to get these scaled screen parameters, which I don't know if these are set in URP or even, well, this function, yeah, so this thing is for URP, so these are set in URP, but I don't know if they're set for compute buffers. It doesn't look like it. Okay, so is this the camera width and height? Okay, well, yeah, I could probably find that. So yeah, this is basically, yeah, just the green size. But I think I'll just name it the same to be consistent. Okay, so this is camera dot width, camera dot height, and then like 1 plus 1 divided by the camera width, something like that. Yeah, I don't really need that. So more stuff here. Okay, so next we needed to find the screen UV, which is the position in horizontal clip space, or I don't know if that's horizontal, just H clip space. It's the X and Y, which makes sense. Times X and Y and scaled screen parameters. Okay, so now let's set this in the render feature, and I think I'll just also do this every frame. We might not need to, but I guess the camera size can change, so we can be safe here. Now since I'm going to get the camera twice, we should just cache it. Okay, now hopefully the camera has a width thing, but I don't, okay, it doesn't. So how do you... Oh, it does have a pixel width, okay. How wide is the camera in pixels? So I guess we'll want the scaled pixel width, because this is the actual size of the texture. So new float 4, cam pixel, or scaled pixel width, scaled pixel height, and I don't care about the other values, so I'm just going to set them to 0. Okay, so now we have that. Yeah, it's still going to give me errors, but okay, so now I don't know if this is set either, which is going to be a shame if it's not. Same with this near clip value. Probably not set for compute shaders. Although maybe it will be because I include this common. Which, speaking about that, I should just use this declare depth texture because we know it's gonna work. There's just something weird going on. Okay, this is now universal. That way I don't have to have my own or copy that there. And maybe it will include some of these keywords. I'm not sure. So let's copy this and see. Okay, so if Unity reverse Z, and this again, it's just because some hardware, the Z buffer, excuse me, starts at 0 and then at the very end, or at the deepest value is 1, where on others it starts at 1 and the deepest value is 0. And then still other hardware values go from -1 to 1, so that's why we have to deal with this as well. Okay, so redefinition. Oh. Okay, so apparently this is defined sometime in this file. So it's saying I'm redefining it, but I don't think it will actually be set on the compute shader. So no matching one parameter function for sample scene depth. Which is weird because it's right here. An undeclared. Oh, okay. So it's actually complaining because, yeah, if your argument isn't named right, or if an argument isn't named after a variable that actually exists, the compiler kind of just assumes that there's no arguments to that function, which is kind of strange, but that's just how it works. Oh, okay, and so it's telling me, yeah, so since it's multiplying by a float 4 or a 4x4 matrix, it was telling me I was losing the fourth component, which reminds me, I also just need to add 1 to the end there, and then, oops, just get rid of, or only take the first 3 components. Okay, so no errors. Good to see. So what's next? Okay, so now we can compute the world space position based on the screen UV, depth, and then this matrix inverse view. I think it's the inverse view projection matrix. You have to go to sleep as you have to work in a few hours. Sacrifice some sleep was worth it for meeting. That's really nice to say, but yeah, thank you for stopping by. Sorry it has to be late for you, but this is really the only time I can stream, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm gonna stream again on Monday, and of course there'll be a video on Wednesday. So, but yeah, thanks for coming by and have a great night. Okay, so inverse view projection matrix. Okay, I don't care. All right, good night. Okay. I'm just trying to see. So I guess you multiply the view by the projection and then take the inverse, because I mean, that sounds right, but like I said, I'm kind of tired right now, so inverse view projection matrix. But besides that, we should have everything it needs. Yeah, because we have the depth now and we have the UV. So actually, now that I think about it, we should move the pedal first before trying to collide. And then, that's interesting. Well, I guess if the Y value, okay, well, we'll deal with that later, because we'll actually want to clamp the Y value so it's not lower than this collision. So I was going to say if we like overshoot the ground, then we'll have to do like kind of a fake raycast. I don't really want to deal with that for this simple effect, but we'll see. So anyway, so we have the inverse view projection matrix, and then the screen UV, and the depth we've got there. Oh, and I'm just going to use a float instead of a real. They do that to try to optimize for mobile platforms, but this is just easier to read. All right, so still no errors, which is good to see. Okay, so I guess we're done. So I need to just create this matrix. Okay, and yeah, I probably won't get it right on my first try, because a little bit of math to do. Okay, so we need the... Oops. View projection. Okay, so it doesn't have this, right? So okay, does it not have the view matrix? Oh, I guess that's the world to camera. Okay, so let's float 4x4 inverse view projection equals math inverse math. So this is the part I'm not sure about. Like, is it okay, well, we want to transform this from projection space to view space, so we got to apply the inverse of that first, and then view space to world space. And then things are applied in opposite order of multiplication. So that means that the projection matrix should go last because, okay, let's see if I got that right. So world to camera matrix is the view matrix and then the projection. And then it inverts them. I think, again, don't quote me because it's kind of late. I think if you inverse a multiplication, it inverses both of them. Like, I think it's commutative, but that could be wrong too. Anyway, we'll see if this works. Right, because yeah, if you inverse, I guess you could think about it. So if we didn't inverse, this would take us from, so do projection, so it'd go, well, yeah, from world. Oh wait, isn't? Okay, no, sorry. Got projection goes from view space to clip space. So maybe I do need to invert both of them, but okay. Or actually, so if we want to go from clip to world, then we would do the opposite. So yeah, this matrix, which isn't inverted, would take us from world to view and then view to clip. So then we invert it to go the whole thing. So I think this is right. At least my 11 o'clock brain says it is. So we'll see. Anyway, okay, so no errors. Let's just set the pedals position to whatever this returns and we'll see what happens. Okay, so now it's not liking it. The memory access dependent on potentially UAV related data at kernel main. Okay. I haven't seen this error before. So it doesn't like that I am setting, but it doesn't actually matter because this is like happens before. This variable dependent on potentially UAV related data petal at kernel main. But I mean, that's okay, right? Because that's the whole point of using this buffer. So it goes away if I don't do this. So for some reason it doesn't like me setting the pedal, but it happens later. Okay. World space equals world post. Does this work? No. Okay, let's look and see. This variable dependent. There must be some shader thing that doesn't like, but this is going to be quite a shame because I don't know. No, we don't want. Gradient operation uses. First of all, we lack of unity related information on computers, blah, 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 blah. First example is wrong. You have to use one of these load methods. Don't use sample as that doesn't work on... Okay. Well, I've used sample before. Oh, but you know what? Yeah, okay. Yeah, this declared depth texture is using sample texture 2D and not sample texture LOD, so it's trying to do... Yeah, derivatives, which doesn't work in a compute shader. So maybe that's the issue. So there is this load scene depth, and maybe that's what we have to use. I kind of wondered what the difference was. Okay, so that works. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we don't see anything. Okay, well, let's clean this up again. Okay, I guess let me move this away to just make sure that the pedals are working normally without that. Okay, they're not moving down. Oh, but I got rid of the... Yeah, I got rid of this thing, so... Now this weird bug's happening, but as long as it's doing something, I'm not gonna worry about it. Ugh. Thing is really annoying me tonight. Okay. So you know what? I'm noticing this bug seems to happen when there's baking shaders. So I don't know, it has something to do with the shader compiler. Okay, so nothing is showing up. Yeah, there's some bug with our depth, which I guess kind of is to be expected because, you know, it's a new system. But let's set the clip really close, and then everything should appear like at the edge of the clip space, which might be invisible now that I think about it, but all we have to do is just box the camera in, so that there's like something occluding it. Okay. Alright, so let's see. Okay, they still don't show up. I wonder if they're there, they're just like hidden behind this. I guess let's make sure that they actually are being rendered with the frame debugger. Okay, yeah, it's here. That's interesting. So, okay, so we can see. Okay, so now we can see data about the compute shader, which is kind of nice. Oh, it actually gives us the world space camera position. So some of this stuff is set by Unity, even in the... Oh, this is a procedural. Yeah, the compute shader. Okay. Has a camera depth texture. Okay, and I did set the scaled scene green parameters, so I guess I don't have to do that myself, which is nice. So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and get rid of that because it was getting overwritten anyway. Okay, so yeah, and this number of falling petals, it says like it's 1.4 to 10 to the negative 43. That's because it's trying to show it as a float when it's actually an integer. It's not, like, it doesn't really know how to handle that. We can see the depth texture. I mean, it's probably all there, but just this back area is black. So if I move this cube forward, the depth texture will probably, yeah, it starts turning red. So it is working. Let's okay, well, it's kind of, yeah, it's hard to test it because I think it might be like inside the wall. Maybe, but it could also just be messing up, so. Let's see here. Oh. Excuse me? What's a stream without a sneeze? Okay, so let's just, instead of just setting it, I think I'll do it like how the actual shader will be, where we just clamp it so that the position is never less than the depth. Let's see, collision position. Dot y, and then the pedal. So again, this won't work when pedals, if they move any other direction besides straight down, because they'll go through walls, but having like an actual collision system would be kind of difficult. We'd have to, you know, import collider data and stuff. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. It's not really working how I would expect. Okay, yeah, and the depth texture is getting kind of messed up in the scene view. But in the game view, it's like the depth for some reason is being moved up too much. Somebody can like turn off baking shaders. Yes, I know it's, yeah, for some reason it's not responding, and that's the bug that's causing this issue. I don't know if I can turn it off. Okay, so yeah, I think, yeah, I guess you guys can't even see what I'm messing with because of Unity is off screen. Sorry about that. Or that part, the bottom of Unity is off screen. So here it's like, whenever this bug happens, the baking shaders bar continually moves back and forth, and I was trying to turn it off, but it doesn't work. And then it says the baking shader is not responding. So anyway, I think that has something to do with what is causing these annoying bugs, but I don't know what that is or why that's happening. Maybe I'll have to see if it's like just this project or what. Because yeah, I need to fix this by next stream, because it's kind of makes it really difficult to work with shaders if they don't update or if they don't recompile. Oh, and with that I just noticed it's 11. So I probably should get going. I hate to leave on this buggy note, but I guess at least we got it kind of to collide. It doesn't really, they're not like actually colliding with the ground, and there's some weird Like, I don't know why they move up so fast because I just use a max. So I don't know why they pop up. But I guess I don't know. We'll have to... I need to get a better way to visualize the depth, I think. Because it seems like the depth is like changing every frame, which makes me think that maybe the texture isn't actually being set correctly and it's kind of giving us junk data. But then again, it's sort of coherent. But anyway, so we'll just have to play around with it and see what's going on. But anyway, thanks everybody for coming by and watching. Sorry for kind of a strange stream, but I really don't know why Unity was doing this. I guess we did get some work done and we learned a lot about compute shaders and command buffers, so it wasn't a total loss. But yeah, so I'll be back streaming on Monday and we'll probably work more on this. But I hope you all have a great weekend, and oh, of course, I'll put some links in chat if you enjoyed the stream. Feel free to follow or check out my YouTube channel. I also have Twitch and Twitter, of course, if you want to chat with me throughout the day. But yeah, so I stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 US Eastern, and then a game development tutorial goes live on my YouTube channel every Wednesday at noon US Eastern time. So anyway, I hope you all have a great weekend, and I guess I'll see you Monday. Thanks again. Bye-bye.